Howdy there, people. How's it going? Welcome to the Friday edition of Burn It Down with Kim Brown, the safe space where we set oppression ablaze and believe that something better can, will, and must arise from the ashes of all this nastiness that we are tragically surrounded by. But it's all good, guys, because this is a space for us to come together, for us to talk about the issues of the day, and to also get some jokes off in the midst. And I know sometimes it may not be appropriate to crack jokes given certain situations, but guys, you gotta smile. It's gonna be some things out here gonna make it hard for you to smile. I'm queuing up Scarface and Tupac right now. Maybe I should play that on the next Patreon pre-show, but that's a good one. Anyway, guys, I'd like to welcome you all to the program again. Hey, I see y'all waving. What's going on? Who else we got in the Chuck Diesel? Let me thank you, Chuck Diesel, for all that you do, for coming through and always telling people to like and share and watch the program and moderating and dropping us some super chats. We appreciate you, Chuck Diesel. I just want you to know that personally from my heart. Guys, coming up on today's program. So there has been a bit of movement on the Keith Davis Jr. saga. Of course, this is something we've been talking about here on our show. Keith Davis Jr. is in jail right now, currently convicted of absolutely nothing, but Baltimore State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby is going to try him for a fifth time for the murder of Kevin Jones and also gave him some additional attempted murder charges. Well, now there is going to be some new attention brought onto Keith Davis Jr.'s case by the group Campaign Zero. And if y'all know who runs Campaign Zero, it is DeRay McKesson. DeRay McKesson, yes, the one with the blue vest. And we talked about this a little bit on the Remix Morning Show, and I wanted to bring it up again here, just to let y'all know this is what we are going to be talking about. I mean, do some of these folks in the movement, right, perhaps with tarnished reputations, let's say that, are they welcome to get involved in cases where they can bring attention, hopefully to the case and less to themselves? I'm really interested in you guys' take on this. We're going to talk about that a little later on the program. We're also going to be discussing climate change is smacking us all in the teeth right now, from coast to coast, everywhere, right? And who are the people who have really been on the front lines of trying to protect the earth? Okay, before anybody says environmentalists, no, it has been indigenous people, 100%. Native Americans have been fighting to defend this land, to defend our water, to defend our wildlife. Ever since the colonizers first stepped their funky feet on this continent, the indigenous folks have been out in front, and that has not changed at all. In northern Minnesota, water protectors have been fighting to stop Line 3. The Canadian oil company Enbridge has been trying to put Line 3 through these protected native lands, these lands that are protected by treaty. And the United States government and the governor of Minnesota is just A-OK with them slamming this nasty ass tar sands oil pipe through this sacred land. And some water protectors have been arrested. So we're going to check in what's happening out there in northern Minnesota about the actions that have been ongoing. They have not stopped. And of course, they have not gotten any recognition on your cable news network or on your local TV carrier as well. So we're going to talk about that. But first things first, guys. So this time last year, every single city, town across this country, people were out in the streets literally by the thousands. Why were they out in the streets? They were out in the streets for George Floyd. They were out in the streets for Ahmaud Arbery. They were out in the streets for Breonna Taylor. And maybe it was the pandemic, I'm not really sure, but people really had the opportunity to really marinate very deeply about how law enforcement and in some cases, in the case of Ahmaud Arbery, you know, violent, armed, racist white folks are just out here killing us arbitrarily. And that has not changed. And I wanted to bring the attention of you guys to a case that happened right here in my home state of Maryland, in Montgomery County, the next county over, to a young man, a young black man named Ryan Leroux. Ryan Leroux was 21 years old. He was shot and killed by Montgomery County Police last Friday. And I'm sort of shaking my head and scratching my head as to why Ryan's case is not garnering national attention. And I'm thinking because there was a gun involved. And anytime Black people have guns, whether or not they are legal owners of those guns or not, any right to their self-determination to exist, especially in the context of a confrontation with law enforcement, is immediately dismissed, right? Oh, well, the cop shot him. Well, he had a gun. Well, he was in his legal right to possess that gun. And according to eyewitnesses and even the police themselves, Ryan Leroux never raised this gun, never pointed this gun at police, and they shot him, count them, 24 times. Let me say that to y'all one more time. They shot this young man 24 times. I want us to take a look at a package from NBC Washington. I think the reporter was Corey Smith. And I want you guys to take a look at this. It's given from the perspective of Ryan's family, who, of course, are extremely devastated behind his murder. But it doesn't. I will tell you that. Let me not influence y'all's take or perspective of this news package. Let's run it, and then we'll come back and we'll discuss it. But let's take a look at this from NBC Washington's NBC4's Corey Smith about the murder of Ryan Leroux by Montgomery County Police.
Yeah.
This time of year, you could always find Ryan Leroux with his family, soaking up the sun in Myrtle Beach. He was with them again tonight, albeit under the most tragic of circumstances. They gathered at his Howard County funeral home for a viewing to start saying goodbye. Leroux's aunt and uncle say his parents were too distraught to speak.
Since the tragedy, this has been a story, but this is the first time they saw their son, and it just came to home, and it was very emotional.
Tonight, the family shared this video with News 4, a collage of Leroux's 21 years on this earth. This is how the family wants to remember him.
Gun is on the passenger seat. I'm backing up.
Instead, their minds continue to go back to last Friday night, to the drive-thru at this McDonald's in Gaithersburg. Leroux in the driver's seat of his Honda CR-V, surrounded by police. Around 9:15, an employee called 911 when Leroux refused to pay for his meal and wouldn't move his car. The first officer to arrive says they saw a handgun on the passenger seat and ordered Leroux to get out, but he didn't budge. About 30 minutes later, police shot and killed him. Officers say they found a loaded handgun in his lap.
The ending is tragic. I really would like to know the actual facts of what happened and what transpired. I just wish there would have been some other avenue other than ending in gunfire.
That's the burning question for Leroux's aunt. Why did it have to end this way?
I have stopped a few times and said to myself, is this really happening? We just hope for transparency, really. And I just hope there's a clear yes or no.
Funeral services are scheduled for Friday. Corey Smith, News 4.
Now, Montgomery County Police tell us body camera footage of the shooting is dark and unclear. Ryan Leroux's father has seen that video and says it shows his son raising his hands, not the gun.
So I wanted us to be clear about some things there. And again, that package was from NBC Washington, talking about the murder of Ryan Leroux. So according to sources close to his family, Ryan was experiencing mental health crises. He was allegedly living out of his car. He had just ended a long-term relationship with his girlfriend. And his father has said to different media outlets that he was undergoing mental health issues. And guys, and okay, let me back this up. He was having mental health issues. Okay, Montgomery County, Maryland, is a very affluent place, probably one of the richest counties in the country. And Montgomery County police have a bad reputation, as I guess most police agencies do. Because I was going to say, maybe not as bad as Baltimore City. No, maybe as bad as Baltimore City, or maybe not as bad as Prince George's County. No, I think it is well known in this area that MoCo police will fuck you up out here, right? And there has been a lot of talk from the county council about starting a crisis response unit. And this case with Ryan Leroux would have been a perfect opportunity for the county to have deployed such a unit. I don't understand why, even still now, in halfway through 2021, why are police still being sent to scenes with people who are experiencing some sort of crisis? Now, Ryan may not have been outwardly experiencing a crisis. Like news reports have said that he was at the McDonald's drive-through sitting there and refusing to pay. So Ryan basically, he could have left at any time, but he didn't. So that fact that he sat there and waited for police to arrive was probably an indication right there that he may not have been 100% in his right mind. So at that point, even after police engaged with him for what they say was a period of about a half hour, like they said that as if, oh, well, we talked to him for a half hour. I mean, what else was we going to do? Come on, man. You talk to him until you get him out of the car, or until you get one of his family members or someone close to him on the scene, or a trained mental health professional on the scene to talk to him, right? And I want us to be clear. From all accounts, Ryan never exited his car. And also from all accounts, Ryan never lifted up the gun. And let me just be clear. He was 100% in his legal right to own and possess that gun, to even own and possess that gun in his vehicle. Okay, the gun was visible. And the state of Maryland, like they don't want you to have the gun like locked up necessarily. Like they want to be able to see it, right? I'm sorry, Tunde, you saying something? Okay, never mind. So the fact that Ryan was in possession of this gun is being used against him. Possessing a gun is not necessarily a violent act within itself. And we need to be very, very, very clear about that, okay? Just because you have a gun in your possession does not mean that you are about to shoot or that you have shot anyone. It just means you have a gun in your possession, okay? The officers, guys, have been named: Sarah Vaughn, Roman Schmuck, John Searney, and Brooke Inman. And the one part missing from that NBC Washington package that I was really trying to look for, because I had seen it aired on a local station, I couldn't recall which one, but they aired the video, but they didn't air the audio. So Montgomery County Police are saying that the officers' body-worn cameras, it's too dark and they can't really see much, which is the reason I guess they're giving for having not released this footage yet. But there were bystanders there who took some camera footage. And when I tell you guys, when they started shooting at him, it sounded like a whole row of firecrackers going off. 24 shots. Explain to me why someone sitting in their car needs to be shot 24 times. 24 times. No, we don't have open carry, Prince of Judah 79. No, we don't have open carry in Maryland, but it needs to be visible in your car. It either needs to be locked in the trunk or it needs to be visible, right? It's a strange distinction, I know. But it is right. It's not. We don't have open carry here. Maryland is very strict with gun laws. But the young man went and purchased that gun himself. I saw a TikTok video from somebody who purported to be Ryan's cousin, and the reason I didn't air it here on the show is because I can't verify that is actually Ryan's cousin. I do try to hold some journalistic standards on this joint. If something that I'm not able to verify, I opt usually not to go with it. But I saw a TikTok video from somebody claiming to be Ryan's cousin, and they said that Ryan had purchased this gun legally because he was unhoused. He was living in his car and he needed to protect himself. And listen, the kind of summer that we're having around here in the DMV make total sense why the young man felt as though he needed to strap up. It's a little wild around here with people getting carjacked, and it's crazy. So I wanted to bring Ryan's case to your attention. I want you guys to please say the name of Ryan Leroux. I'm expecting that we're probably going to hear more from his family. Obviously, they are still in mourning. But the status of the case is, I just told you that the officers involved have been named. They are on administrative duty. And as is protocol here in the state of Maryland, if there is an officer involved shooting, a different jurisdiction will handle the investigation. So Howard County investigators are going to take over from Montgomery County and see what happens. But I'm not expecting too much, guys. Those police reform bills that passed the Maryland State Legislature this year, they are not yet in effect. So the officers still are afforded all the protections of the law enforcement officers' Bill of Rights right now. So I'm not even sure if we're even going to see any charges come out of this. But there has to be a better response. Like, I'm tired of seeing Black people who are in mental distress have police show up, and instead of offering help, they offer them bullets. They offer them a death sentence right there on the spot, when their only crime at that time literally was not paying for food at McDonald's. Was the case with Ryan Leroux. Ryan didn't deserve 24 bullets because he didn't pay for his quarter pounder. Ryan needed help. And perhaps him sitting and refusing to leave that McDonald's without paying was his cry for help. And it's just another example that, guys, the police are not protectors of public safety. They oftentimes are there to worsen the experience of whomever is having a crisis. And it's just tragic. And because there was a gun involved, meaning that because Ryan was in simple possession of a gun, I feel as though his story does not meet the respectability standard in order to have his name lifted up nationwide, as this is a young man's life that people need to get out in the streets behind and make sure that those who killed him are held accountable, and make sure that his family gets justice. I can't even say what justice is right now, y'all. I really can't. 21-year-old Ryan Leroux. Ladies and gentlemen, please say his name. Guys, so I want us to move on to my next story. This is pertaining to our Indigenous brothers and sisters. Before we get into the Stop Line 3, a little bit of news. I'm sure you all heard this already, but the Major League Baseball team, formerly known as the Cleveland Indians, has announced today that they are changing their name from the Indians to, I believe it is the Cleveland Guardians. Now, this follows the Washington football team, which of course was rocking a whole racial slur as the name of their franchise for many decades. And these are just small steps. Finally, I think that small slivers of American mainstream society are starting to understand that, like, these aren't cute team nicknames, okay? These are wholly offensive to an entire group of people, to an entire race of people, to the first people to be on this continent. We are offending them by the names of our mascots and by Cleveland, because what was the mascot's name? Mr. Yahoo, Mr. Wahoo. Oh my God! Like, I mean, it was blackface except red face, right? Horrible. America is so casual in its racism, and I can't believe it got all the way to 2021 before some of these big glaring pieces of racism propaganda finally got changed. So I won't say congratulations to Cleveland, because y'all should have been did this shit. Okay. Did they change the mascot too? Dawn, I think they had got rid of that mascot maybe a season or two ago. Or at least they stopped selling the merch with that maybe about 2 seasons ago. Who said the Cleveland Caucasians? Prince of Judah, if you don't get the whole fuck out of here. I know there was, I'm familiar with, I think the Cleveland Caucasians. It's a t-shirt or something. I've seen that. Yes. But guys, our Indigenous folks, I mean, I know Black people have got it bad. Our Indigenous people have got it bad, okay, out here. From being like on the front lines of climate disasters, with the wildfire situation is driving me crazy out in California, Oregon, and Nevada, and Washington State is driving me absolutely nuts. And then this ongoing saga of water protectors in northern Minnesota who have been trying now for years to stop the Canadian oil company called Enbridge. Tar sands. You guys familiar with tar sands? It's nasty shit. It is the most disgusting form of oil refining, or one of the more gross ways that oil is extracted from these gross tar sands. And so they've been trying to push this Line 3 through northern Minnesota for some time. Now, Line 3, parts of it have already leaked. I believe there was a big leak out in Michigan some years ago that, fucked up the river and did terrible things. And never forget, you guys, Native people, Indigenous people have been the OG climate protectors and environmental protectors from the jump, trying to preserve our natural resources, trying to keep the water clean. My gosh, because water is life. If the water gets soiled, that's it. It's a wrap. Everything after that goes. People go, plant life goes, animals go. Nothing can survive if it can't drink clean water. And when those oil pipelines rupture, which they always do, which they inevitably will, then what? You can't clean the water up after that. It's over. So I want us to take a look, if we could, at some of the actions that have been happening recently. They have been calling for people to get up there, right? Like they need bodies on the front lines. People have been literally standing in front of these giant drilling machines trying to prevent ongoing work. And of course, they have been subject to law enforcement tactics. They've been subject to arrest. They brought dogs out there. It's been a fight. It's been a fight. And it's really sad that American mainstream media would rather focus on Jeff Bezos doing something completely fucking useless for the whole of humanity. Meanwhile, Indigenous water protectors and their comrades have been literally putting their bodies on the line to try to protect rivers and drinking water for millions of people. And they can't get no time on MSNBC, can they? They can't get no time on CNN. But all of these mainstream outlets are more than happy to masturbate Jeff Bezos. Well, maybe masturbate is the wrong word. But what do you do when you masturbate somebody else? Whatever that is. That's what they did to Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson for the past 3 months plus. Let's take a look at, if we could, today. Let's look at that B1, please. So these clips we're about to see come from a group called Honor the Earth, an Indigenous-led organization out to protect water, lands, Indigenous land rights, animals, the works. And what we're about to see here are a group of women about to be arrested, right, for using their bodies to block access by Enbridge machines to continue the drilling for the oil, or continue, building the oil pipeline. They are protecting the Shell River while there's supposed to be a suspension, right? So we're going to send our prayers up to the good people out there in northern Minnesota, the Honor the Earth people, the Indigenous Environmental Network, who have been doing this good work. And the second clip of this video that we're about to see is going to be water protector Winona LaDuke, when she got out of jail after being arrested with 6 other women trying to protect the river and the water from Enbridge. Hashtag Stop Line 3. Let's take a look at that tune day.
are you on now? Which side are you on? Which side are you on now? Which side are you on?
You look good.
Okay.
Hey.
I mean, it's Winona LaDuke, and I want to say that I've been released from jail my 3 nights for being a water protector. I think this is what you call the Enbridge way. Make sure that hundreds of Minnesota citizens are put in jail so that they can steal 5 billion gallons of water and put the last tar sands pipeline in while they put a bunch of us in jail. But I'm having spent three nights for being a water protector and standing on the easement with 6 other women, or sitting on the easement. I want to say we're going to keep fighting Enbridge, because it's wrong that they steal the water. It's not patriotic, Governor Walz, to give the water, the land, and our civil rights to a Canadian multinational. And I'm really grateful to be out of jail today in Aiken County, and hope I don't see the inside for a little while, but who knows?
Come to the rivers?
Oh, please come to the rivers and support us. They got a lot of rivers still, and got a lot of corruption appears in Minnesota's DNR and other forms of agencies that have been wooed by Enbridge. But we're going to keep pushing, because someone needs to protect the water and the mussels and the fungus. And that's going to be water protectors. We should all be water protectors.
Okay. Winona LaDuke, David Silberg, I see you in the comments saying that you're still very proud of your vote for that Nader LaDuke ticket. I can dig it, sir, very much. Listen, guys, I know that life does not allow for many of us to just pick up and go lay our bodies down in different places. But as much as we are able to, we have to support our brothers and sisters out there who are on the front lines, literally trying to save the earth. Like, y'all, who else is out here trying to save the earth the way that Indigenous people are, especially Indigenous women, man? Please put some respect on our Native sisters' names and our Two-Spirit sisters and brothers' names, man. They are out here, like, seriously doing thankless work. And if you want to check out the Indigenous Environmental Network, check out their Twitter page. They have some links there about how you can offer support, especially like jail support for people who are getting arrested. I believe the number is about 600 people total over the course of this struggle versus Enbridge have been arrested, right? 600 people have gone out there to fight against this giant company of Enbridge. And by the way, this pipeline in northern Minnesota already leaking. It's already leaking stuff. Yes. Tunde, if you can cue up that package. I saw this on the Indigenous Environmental Network, and I was not surprised. If you guys remember, Dakota Access Pipeline out there in the Dakotas, I mean, it has leaked a few times already. And the people out there, the Sioux people, the Lakota Sioux people have been said, we told you this was going to happen. Let's take a look at that package, you guys. The Enbridge pipeline already leaking.
An ominous scene was captured today as an Enbridge crew was caught scrambling to clean up a fracking liquid spill at the site of the first fire light camp near the headwaters of the Mississippi River in northern Minnesota. The spill took place during a press conference being hosted by Rights of the Mississippi River and a tour of the location hosted by the Rise Coalition. Present at the event were Minnesota State Senators Aaron Murphy and Scott Dibble, as well as State Representatives Heather Keeler and Frank Hornstein. Enbridge's Line 3 pipeline has a lengthy and troubling history of spills, including the 1991 Line 3 oil spill, the largest inland oil spill in U.S. history. That tragic incident resulted in 1.7 million gallons of crude oil spilled in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, and in the Prairie River, a tributary of the Mississippi River.
So the Enbridge people are trying to scramble to clean up a leak of some fracking materials, which, by the way, if you're familiar with the process of fracking, you know that fracking is full of chemicals, full of gnarly shit that, probably not drinkable. It's probably not ingestible, probably very bad for not only people, but, river life, etc. And when I was listening to that package, the phrase that came in my head was shit flows downstream. If you have a spill of fracking liquid at the headwaters of the Mississippi, and guys, raise your hand. Everyone's familiar with American geography. Yes, Mississippi River runs from Minnesota down to Louisiana. You just want to put fracking liquid all in the Mississippi. And listen, I'm not sitting here acting like the Mississippi is pristine to begin with, but you know what? The Mississippi doesn't need any help getting any dirtier. Okay, neither do all the fish in aquatic life that depend on the health of the river. Guys, I don't know where we are, but hell could be an appropriate descriptor because there seems to be absolutely, literally no consideration given for keeping waterways clean, for keeping airways clean. And it's always a lot of lip service coming from the federal government, really regardless of who's in office, but usually the majority of the pandering to the eco-conscious people comes from Democrats. And Joe Biden is no different. Joe Biden is not taking any serious steps to address climate change. It doesn't even really seem to be on Joe Biden's radar. Now, I can understand why it's not on Joe Biden's radar because Joe Biden, he keeps looking out the White House window and he keeps seeing the Grim Reaper walking up 16th Street, right? So Joe Biden can give a fuck, right, if the planet is on fire because he's not going to be around much longer to see it. So he's like, sucks for y'all. Sounds like a you problem, not a me problem. And that is the seemingly the policy position of this entire White House. And I'll give you an example. Today, it was announced, and again, it's small, but it's notable. So it was announced today that the Senate Armed Services Committee has approved an additional $25 billion in military spending, right? Now, the Biden administration wanted $715 billion in military spending, but that amount did not cut the mustard, right? The biggest polluter in the world, ladies and gentlemen, we all know who the biggest polluter in the world is, right? It is the United States military. The United States military emits more pollution and in its actions across the globe releases so much toxins into the air, into the water. Nobody else pollutes more than the U.S. military. And if Joe Biden was serious about something as consequential as climate change, then perhaps reining in that military budget might be something that he ought to be seriously considering. But it never crosses his mind because that is not the American ethos. The American ethos is consume, 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 and contaminate, contaminate, contaminate. And the consequences are for future generations. We don't need to worry about that. Donald Rumsfeld is somewhere burning in hell, unconcerned wholly with the fact that the United States did so much eco damage to the environment in Iraq, continuing to do so, especially out in Syria, where some of these uncapped oil wells, or where all of the junk from war, be it human waste, be it, shit that they blew up, they dig these ginormous fire pits and just burn it all. And it releases some of the nastiest stuff into the air, causing all kinds of physical ailments to people in the surrounding areas. We don't even want to talk about the amount of birth defects that the Iraqi people and now the Syrian people have experienced since the U.S. military interventions there. So if we are serious about trying to combat climate change, we got to fucking tell the U.S. military, man, that we got to cut this shit all the way back. We got to dial this all the way back, shorty, because y'all are out here seriously fucking shit up. Seriously fucking shit up. Are y'all even paying attention to what I'm talking about here today? I see a lot of side conversations going on. Very very little about the topic at hand. Now, granted, I appreciate that you guys come here and enjoy the community. So thank you all for showing up. Thank you so much for all the thumbs up and the hearts. Anna Hart, what's up? Franny French, Chuck Diesel, Tasia's in here, Gypsy Mama, Dawn Gibson, Big Teal, Natalie A, Schultze 100, Pimp C, Courtney the SLP is in here, Rain DeSoot is in here. I'm so happy to see y'all. What's up, D Will? What's up, Valley Girl 24? Thank you so much for becoming a patron, honey. Franny French, thank you so much for becoming a patron. Hey, y'all should be cool like Valley Girl and Franny French and become a patron for us. Patreon.com/BIDWKB. Guys, starting next week. Oh, thank you, baby. I appreciate it. Thank you, Carpe Diem. Mwah. Y'all are awesome. I know y'all listening. Y'all just having a good time. Hey, King Kimishiro, I wasn't trying to put no pressure on you, sir, but thank you so much for your donation. We certainly appreciate that. Next week, guys, we are going to be starting a fundraising drive. And it's funny because when in our team meeting this week, you know, me, Tunde, Molly, and Jean-Biev, we are a team here. Latif Mems, thank you so much, darling. I appreciate you so much for your support. So we're like, you know, guys, maybe we should try to do like a fundraising drive and, you know, try to get some new patrons. And we decided to do it next week. But the crew didn't know that next week is my birthday week. So we're going to be doing a fundraising stint over the next couple of weeks. It's going to coincide with my birthday. And how about I'll tell y'all how old I'll be on my birthday. Now, some of y'all probably already know how old I am because I don't be caring if niggas know how old I am. But fuck it, we'll do a little tease. I am a broadcaster. We'll tease this joint out till next week, and I'll tell y'all how old I'll be next week. But yeah, so just stay tuned. You know, hold like $5 or something back, $10 back for your people. We'd appreciate it because this is women-led media. This is Black women-led media right here. We are a crew. And we can't do this without you. So keep that in mind for our summer fundraising drive starting next week. Gang, I want us to move along because this is a conversation that I want to hear from you guys about. Okay, so of course you know that we have been covering the case of Keith Davis Jr. here on Burn It Down with Kim Brown. Keith Davis Jr. is the young man. He's only 29. Keith has been in jail 6 years. He was charged initially, Shirley. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you, darling. Keith was charged initially with the murder of Kevin Jones. Kevin Jones was working security up at Pimlico race course up in Baltimore. And every case that the Baltimore state's attorneys have brought against Keith Davis Jr. for the murder of Kevin Jones has summarily fallen apart. A combination of hung juries, a couple of misconducts, and the most recent conviction of Keith during the fourth trial, or after the fourth trial rather, a judge overturned it. A judge overturned that conviction. Chuck Diesel, thank you so much for that, honey. And yes, it is Leo season. A judge overturned that conviction of Keith Davis Jr. And as a result, Keith was just sitting in jail, literally not charged with anything, not convicted of anything. But when it was time for a bail review and whether or not to let Keith come home on, home detention, that was denied. And Marilyn Mosby, the Baltimore State's attorney, brought new charges against Keith, attempted murder charges connected to an alleged jail fight that happened last year. Okay. And she's charging him again for the fifth time with the murder of Kevin Jones. So Kelly Davis, Keith's wife, whom we have had on this program, guys, Kelly has been the most tireless advocate for her husband. And what I have realized, I mean, not the first time me realizing this, it's just that, there are constant realizations of how much Black women are not listened to, right? And I'm not saying that Kelly has been ignored. Listen, you guys, hey, simmer down. What is happening? I said next week, but thank you. Hold on. Y'all just dropping us some bucks. Thank you guys. Hold on, simmer down. Carpe diem. Thank you, darling. Thank you so much for that, Carpe diem. I appreciate that. And then who else tried to? Chuck Diesel. Chuck Diesel, you work here. You're not supposed to be giving us money. But thank you, Chuck Diesel. Yes, thank you. Oh man, y'all wilding out today. But thank you. Wilding out in the best way though. I'll take it. Craig Bardo. Somebody got paid today. Thank you, Craig. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you so much for that support. Well, guys, speaking of support, like I said, I'm the ever evolving realizations how much Black women are not listened to, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense why all of Baltimore City is not in the streets for Keith Davis Jr. And there's a lot of reasons behind that, right? Like, Baltimore is interesting. There are some radical aspects of Baltimore, but there are some very respectable aspects of Baltimore. And Marilyn Mosby is a fan favorite, right? She represents a lot of the hopes and aspirations of people of a certain mindset in that city, right? They want to see Black people in charge. The city does not want to be run by white people. But at the same time, Baltimore, as I'm imagining a lot of Black run cities are, have these aspirational Negroes who won't hesitate to step on their own people, to denigrate their own people in order to advance their political aspirations or to advance their careers. And tragically, Keith Davis Jr. is a casualty of such aspirations from Marilyn Mosby. And it's really gross. You want to root for people, but when they fuck boys and girls, you can't really root for them. So yesterday, Kelly Davis had a press conference because she's getting some help. Campaign Zero, guys. You familiar with Campaign Zero? Campaign Zero is DeRay McKesson's organization. It's the group that he runs, the group that he's the executive director of, civil rights organization. Campaign Zero is stepping in to bring eyeballs to the Keith Davis Jr. situation. And I wanted to get y'all's take on that. But before I do, I wanted to take a look at some of the footage captured by our own Genevieve Montanard, lady on the scene, who showed up to the press conference yesterday in Baltimore. And we're going to hear from Kelly Davis. Well, hold on. Let me give it to you in order. Who we going to hear from first? First, we are actually going to hear from Baltimore activist and community organizer Bilfina Yawan, and then we're going to hear from DeRay, and then we're going to hear from Kelly. So take a look at these clips, you guys. Well, we're going to run them all together, but just listen as best you can to what they have to say about Keith Davis Jr. And I was glad to see that this press conference was well attended by Baltimore media. So Tunic, can we please take a look at that?
If we allow a precedent to be set with Keith Davis Jr. case, it means that the Baltimore State's Attorney Office can continue to do this again and again and again. Keith Davis Jr. has become the most tried man in U.S. history. How can Baltimore City and our leaders, right, who say that we're committed to justice in a new way, allow for our city to set such a precedent? It is not possible, right? And so what that means is that we must drop the charges, because Keith is somebody. He is our somebody. He is a community member, and we're asking that he be returned to us.
Again, the truth is so clear, and that's all we have props and things to show you that, like, it's already there. The first is that multiple people lied in this case. That we think about the state's attorney herself, Marilyn Mosby. She went on the radio in May of this year and said that Keith Davis is a convicted killer. That is just not true. She knows, like I know, that there have been 4 murder trials, there have been 2 hung juries, and 2 overturned convictions. He has been convicted before, and they have both been overturned. There is no standing conviction. Why did the Baltimore City State's Attorney go on the radio and say that he is a convicted murderer? That is just not true. The second, we think about Detective Beanie in this case. There was a question of how did they even connect the gun between the robbery and the murder? How? Detective Beanie got on the stand and he said that there was an officer, Glenn Johnson, who was in the elevator. And Officer Glenn Johnson told him that, you know what, I saw a gun in my case that you should think about. Here's the best part of that story. Officer Glenn Johnson doesn't exist. What does that even mean? How are we still here? But those are just a handful of the things that are just outright untrue in this case. The second is that there's no real evidence linking Keith Davis to this at all. So prosecutors in a couple of the cases have said on the stand that Keith's DNA is on the Ravens bag, if you know the case. That is also not true. The DNA test comes back inconclusive. That is what the test says, and that is actually what the state's evidence also says. They did what's called probabilistic genotyping that says that there's a probability that Keith's DNA might be on the test. There's a weak probability, and what we learned from experts is that there's a probability that a random person walking down the street, that their DNA is also on the bag. It is not true that Keith's DNA is on that bag, and they have said that as truth. The DNA test from the state does not say that. Every single eyewitness in this case, every eyewitness, including the police, give a description of a person that is not Keith Davis. That is just true. An officer, one of the officers who runs and says that he never loses eyesight, he gives a description of a guy with braids. Keith has a fade. The other officer says that the guy I'm chasing has glasses on, dark glasses. Keith didn't have glasses on that day. The guy who gets carjacked says that the person who carjacked him had plaids. That's not Keith Davis. Every single person who sees a photo array in this case and is asked to choose the person who is the suspect does not choose Keith Davis.
It should not take this much. It should not have taken 6 years to free a man. It should not have taken 6 years to fight against a narrative from the city when they couldn't be more wrong about my husband, who is the most gentle, the most loving, the most peaceful person I've ever met in my life. And it is why I advocate for him and I fight for him the way that I do. Because I know who he is. And he has been failed by each agency and entity in this entire city. And I will continue to do so until he is brought back home. Because he has suffered from the moment those shots were shot at him and hit him. He languished in prison for a crime that he did not commit. And he has suffered tremendously through 5 trials, overall 6. Keith will be the second man in American history to ever be tried this many times. When I think about the accomplishments that I wanted to be there to witness of my husband, that is not one of them.
That video shot by our own Genevieve Montanar at a press conference yesterday in Baltimore. Guys, you know, I would imagine that maybe all of us here might have the same opinion of DeRay generally, okay? I've never met DeRay. I've never spoken with him. I don't know what kind of person that he is. But from the outside looking in, he seems to be somebody who is very interested in having the public's attention. And I guess if he's talking good stuff, like bringing attention to what's happening to Keith Davis Jr., that's not a bad thing. I know that he attempted to run for mayor of Baltimore some years ago. To me, that was very publicity stuntish because if public service was his goal in terms of holding elected office, I didn't understand why he aimed for the mayoralship first, as opposed to something like a city council position or, you know, sort of working his way up the ladder. Now, it's the 21st century. We don't have to go in order, you know, like, I mean, fuck, what the fuck office did Trump hold before he ran for president? None, right? So, okay, maybe I'm trying to hold him to a standard of, you know, yesteryear that may not be applicable. But I look at him and I'm a little wary, right? I mean, the same way I sort of look at Sean King and the same way that I know some people look at Tamika Mallory, just as an example. Like people who are out here to pimp the movement for their own ends. And guys, for all I know, that could actually be true. And who was it? Was it you, Dawn Gibson, who said in the chat that they wasn't sure that they didn't know DeRay still had pull? I didn't know DeRay still had pull either, but that's just because I don't pay attention to him. Now, if you go to his social media, I mean, DeRay has over 1 million followers on Twitter. I'm sure his numbers are comparable at other places on social media platforms. So he absolutely has an audience of a lot of folks. I would imagine that if he were so inclined, you know, he could get on one of these cable news stations with relative ease and talk about Keith Davis Jr. And really, guys, that's kind of the bottom line of it, right? Peter Low Frequency. Thank you, darling. Thank you so much for your support, Peter Low Frequency. Hey, honey, you tune in when you can, honey. This is why this is YouTube. YouTube us when you feel like it, baby. Hit a like, and thank you so much for your support, Peter Low Frequency. I appreciate it. But guys, is that the bottom line here? If DeRay can get eyes and attention, pressure put on the Baltimore State's attorney to either drop the charges or to make it so uncomfortable for Marilyn Mosby that people are approaching her about Keith Davis Jr. all the time, that she might have to reconsider her course of action, continuing to prosecute this man for a 5th time. That is so mind-blowing. 5 times. We were talking about this a little bit on Black Power Media, right? And had I been thinking, I should have invited Jared on. Maybe I'll ask Jared if he could come on and have this conversation. I think this is an important conversation to have, guys. When you're trying to fight the giant that is law enforcement, that is the criminal justice system, are you really in a position to turn down anybody's help? Right? I look at Kelly Davis and I see how much and how hard she's going for her husband. I see how difficult this has been for her. I see how clearly vindictive Marilyn Mosby is being towards her husband and towards her family. And that is a David versus Goliath situation. Marilyn Mosby is a powerful person in Baltimore City. She is a moneyed person in Baltimore City. She wields a lot of political power. She has a lot of political capital. People like Marilyn Mosby in Baltimore. Maybe it's shifting some, I hope, even though I talk to people in Baltimore and I still 100% can't get a beat on it. I feel like it's divided up into thirds, like a third of the people like her, a third of the people can't stand her, and a third of the people are just apathetic to the situation, right? But I want this to work. If DeRay is going to put his name and his face behind the Keith Davis Jr. case, then it needs to work, right? This can't be, and it shouldn't be about DeRay. But the reason I would imagine they held the press conference yesterday was in part to point out a lot of the inconsistencies in the cases that Marilyn Mosby's office has brought against Keith Davis Jr., which is important to point out, by the way. DeRay actually did a decent job of laying out some of those inconsistencies, as you saw. He had other points that we just didn't include for time purposes. But I don't want this to be about him. This needs to be about getting Keith out. And sometimes, I was going to say, I mean, do we let agents in? And the reason I say agent, right, Fed or whatever, I won't name this person, but this person has a name and is very respected journalist and political activist and somebody that I respect quite a bit, but I won't name, I will say a her, but I won't name her. She believes 100% that he is the feds, right? That he's a plant, that he is there to derail aspects of the movement, maybe de-radicalize aspects of the Black freedom movement. This is a person whose opinion that I trust, and I may be inclined to believe them. So knowing that, is that somebody that you would invite into the space? Is it a trade-off? Is it the fact that he brings a certain level of clout and attention to, unfortunately, a situation that doesn't have a lot of clout and attention, right? It's even hard for people, like for example, you guys, something that Kelly is doing, an action that she's been doing is that she's gotten a bunch of volunteers who have been knocking on people's doors, going around Baltimore City, knocking on people's doors, informing them about Keith Davis Jr.'s case. And you'd be surprised. Like this is not a well-known story around here, believe it or not. And I know it's sort of mind-blowing to think, like, how could be? This man is about to be tried for a 5th time for the same murder. How come everybody doesn't know Keith Davis Jr.'s name? Well, they don't. They don't. Yeah, it is a trade-off, right? The DNA is not exact. Correct, guys. We know Sharpton's an FBI agent. Okay, so I think that's a point Kamau Franklin made on the Remix Morning Show the other morning. Like, Sean King and DeRay are the new Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, right? Now, your opinions of them notwithstanding, what is it that Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson are known to generally have done for Black people who have been the victims of police violence and police brutality? What they've done is they brought attention, right? Sometimes those cases have panned out to either get judgments, financial judgments for the families, or even charges brought, maybe not always convictions, maybe not even always charges. But the attention is there, guys. And we know that the only way a fire can breathe, the only way a fire can grow is if it has air. And if nobody is blowing air onto your flame, then how is it supposed to be known? How are people supposed to know about the situation? How are people supposed to be able to react and hopefully help? I'm a little torn, to be honest. I can understand Kelly accepting all the help that she can get. Her end goal is to get her husband out of jail. I'm sure she doesn't give a fuck who helps, right? And if I was in her position, I would probably feel the exact same way. My husband's been in jail for 6 years for some shit that he didn't do. Who the fuck? Trump? Come on here, Trump. If Trump say, listen, Sade, real talk though. Come on now. If Donald Trump said that he was going to exonerate Keith Davis Jr., Kelly Davis would be ecstatic, I'm sure. Anybody trying to help her husband, she would be ecstatic, right? Chuck Diesel said Jesse has bad energy. See, I feel like it's, and I don't even know your age, Chuck, but like, I feel like you have to look at Jesse and Al in context. And if you are too young, and I might even put myself in that category necessarily of being too young to fully be able to understand the breadth of Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton's work. Because I will say that they have put in work out here. I don't necessarily dismiss Al and Jesse out of hand. I know people look at the amount of money that they get, the amount of sort of pandering to corporations that they do in order to get funds for their organizations and causes that they believe. Hey man, that's the way they came up. You feel me? Like they are of that belief of that Black capitalism is the road to freedom, and they have moved accordingly, right? I have a different belief system. I don't necessarily believe that. Do I knock them for what they do? Maybe a little bit, but not. I don't dismiss them out of pocket. And y'all are right though. I thought we did. There was a recent article that revisited the fact that Al Sharpton had indeed served as some sort of CIA or Fed informant in some capacity. But let me not delve too deep into that because I don't have my facts lined up to pontificate upon that. But I don't doubt it. I do not doubt it. I do not doubt it. So guys, what's more important here? Rhyme Fest Jesse. What? Y'all are funny. What's important here, guys, is that everyday people like you and I spread the word about Keith Davis Jr. If you have people in Maryland, and they don't even got to be in Baltimore necessarily, and in casual conversations, you mention Keith Davis Jr., they don't know what you're talking about. Educate them about what's happening to Keith Davis Jr. Most importantly, educate them about Marilyn Mosby, first and foremostly, because a lot of people are easily led astray when a made up Black smiling face hops on cable news network. All of a sudden, that person's credibility immediately goes up in the eyes of certain demographics. Please, ladies and gentlemen, and theys, I need y'all to please disavow anybody of these romantic notions about Marilyn Mosby being a progressive prosecutor. Because let me explain something to you. Prosecuting a man 5 times for the same crime when your office has been woefully unable to secure a conviction of him beforehand. Ain't shit progressive about that. Actually, that sounds fascist as fuck, right? She's using the weight of her office to continually go after this man. And even when his conviction was overturned, she found new, different charges to bring against him. He has a wife. He has 4 children. They are waiting for their dad and for their husband to come home. Make sure that Marilyn Mosby knows that this behavior is not cool and it's not going to stand. And she needs to be called out for it. And matter of fact, while y'all at it, lean on y'all favorite MSNBC or CNN news personality. Y'all need to ask Don Lemon, Joanne Reed, welcome. They not asking Marilyn Mosby about Keith Davis Jr. And why is her office singularly going after this one man and this one family multiple times for murder, no less? And while you're at it, she needs to be finding who the real killer of Kevin Jones is. Let me just say that. Who just dropped? You guys, is this payday? Everybody got paid today? Spiffy. Thank you, dear. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate that. Guys, listen, I'm going to hop off here because it's Friday. It's a full moon. It's a gorgeous day out here. I hope it's nice where you are. I hope you're not being choked out by wildfire smoke or other crazy climate catastrophes. Fam, COVID is still out here jumping on people. If you didn't know, please let me tell you. If you haven't been vaccinated, consider getting vaccinated strongly. But if you were determined to be an anti-vaxxer, at the very minimum, what you can do is keep your ass in the house. If you were determined to be out here unvaccinated, the least you can do is stay home. Don't be out here spreading Bona. Bona is doing bad. The Delta variant is out here fucking people up. Even some of these breakthrough infections are concerning me a little bit. I saw a clip that the White House does not want to reveal the real number of breakthrough infections. Well, that doesn't necessarily instill confidence now, does it? So I said that to say your local government and federal government may not have your best interest at heart. So self-preservation is the name of the game. Please be careful out here with COVID, y'all. It's not a game. And just continue to wear your masks and wash your hands and stay the fuck away from people. And if you're an anti-vaxxer, give me your number. Let me call your mama. I'm gonna call your mama and I'm telling. Now, I don't support snitching, but on certain occasions, you gotta tell. And I don't have no problems telling on somebody when they not doing what they supposed to do, especially telling on their mama. I will call your mama. Don't think that I won't. So anyway, guys, please, right, the gamma variant, right, show day, carpe diem, listen. It's crazy out here. You see the Olympics, they sending niggas home left and right from Tokyo. Like, nope, you got the Rona, you got to go. So anyway, just be careful out here, guys. Thank you so much for all your support and for your super chats today. I really appreciate it. Our fundraising drive officially starts next week, but thank you to everybody who decided to get a head start on it. Listen, tonight, don't forget, head on over to Black Power Media Channel. All kinds of amazing offerings over there for you. We got Riot Starter TV. We got Renegade Culture. Last Dope Intellectual. There's a lot going on tonight and tomorrow. I believe is the Warrior class with Balagoon. Balagoon out here teaching us how to fuck people up. I love it. Balagoon teaching us how to choke people out while sitting down with your eyes closed. I'm with it. So that is tomorrow on Black Power Media, your Warrior class. Tune in for that. And don't forget to become a subscriber and a member and a patron to Black Power Media as well, because we out here really trying to build something for you, man, for all of us. And let me do it real quick. Thank you to my brothers and sisters out here. But listen, can I thank very much our non-Black supporters. I know I talk a lot of shit about white people, and I appreciate y'all rolling with it because y'all know I'm not talking about y'all. okay? Because there's a difference between white people and crackers, and all white people are not crackers, and all crackers are not always white people. And I appreciate the white people who support this platform and support Black Power Media and support clickbaity for understanding that, yes, we talk about white people, but we are not talking about y'all. So just make sure that we good. We are all good. So on behalf of Tunde, Molly, and Jean-Biev, I'm Kim Brown. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We will see y'all next week, Tuesdays and Fridays, 5 p.m. Eastern for Burn It Down with Kim Brown. You guys rock. Thank y'all for hanging out. See y'all later. Bye-bye.